And it's time to get girthy, as they say on the streets. Welcome into this week's episode of the podcast. Super excited to be with you guys today. I'm Jay, I'm your host. And before we jump too far into it, I do just want to shout out the description of every episode. First and foremost, something I need you all to do. Of course, everyone wants you to like, follow, subscribe, and do all those arbitrary things, reviews, 5 stars, subscribe, all those things. If you want to, cool. You know how to do that. You would have done it by now if you wanted to, if you've been listening long enough. But what I need y'all to do, because this didn't start until like episode 80-something, episode 90, I need you to go down to the description of the episode, hit the subscribe link to the email newsletter. It comes out twice a week. Once midweek to give you all a boost, and then once on weekends to give you a preview or an early pre-save link for what's coming up that week's episode, so that you get first access to it, you get first dibs, so you never miss an episode. So go down, hit the subscribe, all of that, sign up, email link, got to do it. So without further ado, welcome, Tony. Super excited to have you. The people out there are probably wondering, why did he say girthy to very start the podcast? Because it's a buzzword. It gets you interested in what we're going to talk about. You nasty. But no, Tony, you're the host of the Great Girth Podcast, head girthy. Your guys' podcast, a little bit about it. You guys are two dudes who are tired of the BS, so you started a podcast to talk about it. You guys cover everything from movies to games to music, to comedy to sports to wrestling to life to social hot topics, etc. You name it. If it's a topic, you guys hit it. And you guys do not care. You guys give your opinion, your view, your point of view in such a fun, relatable, enjoyable way. Your guys' specialty happens to be politics, which everyone loves talking about politics. Just kidding. No one likes talking about politics because it's a taboo subject, but it shouldn't be.
Right.
Get informed and have a conversation is where I land on that. And then also movie ranking tier lists, judging by movie rankings as well. So, Tony, you're also a father of 3. Your kids range from 9 to a couple months old at the time of the podcast recording, right?
Yes, sir.
And then, yeah, man, so many good things. I could go on and on a little bit more about you. To you, being a dad means preparing your children to live in a world that no longer exists, to guide them through life lessons that most aren't prepared for, and to ensure they are able to begin at the starting line without any issues. You hope that you'll be able to teach them these teachings, that they'll be able to make their own decisions without hesitation, and to have the knowledge on what it takes to be a decent person and the ability to adapt to a multitude of environments that they will be ready to step into. So, without further ado, that's a little bit about Tony, his viewpoints as a father. Tell us about you. Tell us about the Great Girth Podcast. Tell us about how it started, where it came from, where it's going, and about you just as an individual, where you started, where you came from, where you're at now, and where you're going.
Okay. Let's see. So, a long story, so I'll just give you the summary of it. When I was about 27, 28 years old, an old high school friend of mine asked if I listened to podcasts, and I said yes. That was my current thing, because I wasn't into podcasts until, years after, man. I missed the boat. Because I know that 2010 is when the hype started, and then over time it just kind of jumps. Excuse me, but I had no interest until later in life, and I'm at work one night, I was listening to a podcast, and they found me thinking, these guys are from where I'm from, Colorado, and they started with just a phone and a laptop, and now they're one of the top podcasts. I can definitely do it. At least I thought I could. So, I had that thought in the back of my head for the longest time, and then finally my old high school buddy says he had an idea for a podcast and wanted to do. When he told me about it, he was like, I kind of want that same good Joe Rogan formula, which is just cover everything and just kind of see how it goes from there. He was saying, let's treat it like it's a podcast where it's you and a few buddies at a coffee shop, or you're drinking a cup of coffee, and you just kind of throw stuff at the wall, and whatever goes, then that's how the conversation flows. So we started up a little podcast that only lasted 8 episodes. Just him being a dad, being a dad, it's kind of hard to figure out what we were going to do. And we decided to make, hey, let's take a little break. But during that break, I kind of had motivation. I had like cravings to do more episodes. And I would send him all these ideas, and he was like, yeah, awesome. And over time, he stopped texting me, and so I figured maybe he was mad at me. And somebody challengingly asked him what was up, and he said, I've just been busy, man. I don't have time for a lot of the fun stuff. My girl's getting kind of mad at me because I spent so much time hanging out with you doing the podcasting, which arguably, I get it. He's a dad, she's a mom. It makes sense. So he basically hit me with, I don't know if I have that motivation that you do. And I told him, I love you, dude, but if it's okay with you, I'm going to continue on without you, if that means starting my own podcast, which he was fine with. It was a mutual ending, but I could tell it kind of hurt his feelings. It wasn't to be malicious. I just, once we started doing it, man, I had this fire and, I wanted to keep doing this shit. And he was wanting to do one episode every month or two. And I had a vision of pumping them out every week, every day, whatever, and well, at least it didn't work out. He let me have the rights to that podcast, and I re-released them as a Great Girth edition episode. But moving on, months later, I had all these ideas about how I would start my own podcast. The problem was I had never done solo. So I had to take out a sketch pad and write what I would say, and I even tried to do it is say anyone out there doing solo work, I give you pretty much the most respect because that is a really, really hard thing to do. It is harder than most people think.
Oh,
It
no,
is nothing.
it's
tough.
crazy. It's so difficult for solo work. Like, I've been there. Like, I've recorded bonus episodes that are just solo episodes. Like, early in the podcast on our side, like, I would record Let's Talks, where I would just pick a couple topics. I would bullet point stuff out, and write about it and talk about it and, like, kind of explain it. And then, like, when I produced and made the Well-Balanced Dad Diet, well over almost a year ago to date now at the time of this recording, like, those were all solo, like, just to go for 10, 20 minutes solo,
Right.
you need to have a lot of talking points, or you need to be just hilarious or something, because it's a respect to the solos. I couldn't do this show without having guests of all kinds on. Anyway, continue. I just wanted to echo that.
No, you're good. It sucks though, man. I couldn't even do it. So I did like a 30-minute episode where I ranted, and it was just a, draft episode. Well, it felt like I had a formula. I was listening to it, and it was completely unorganized, which isn't always a bad thing. I'm going to get into that later, but I looked at it like, okay, I have something, but I clearly am missing something else, which is a guest. So I figured I'll just do a guest every episode. I'll reach out to fans, family, people I know that, they might not talk about the topic with me. Well, once I get everything set up, and keep in mind, this is me starting it with just an iPhone and like a little microphone for $9 off Amazon. Well, my wife's cousin, he and I had been hanging out, for the last few years, and I asked him to be a guest, and he's like, yeah, sure. And so it comes on, and it was just natural, dude. Right away, you could just tell it was something, but we held back, 4 or 5 episodes later, I keep having him on, and one day he hits me, he's like, so you're going to have like a second partner on the show? Like, what's your plan? And I was like, honestly, I was thinking about asking you, man, because it just makes sense. On every single episode, there's clearly chemistry, it works. And so, he was excited. He was like, I was just going to do that to me. So Austin came aboard from there. And I tell everyone that Austin's brainchild is the name of our podcast, because we were writing down names on the newspaper and just going to the wall, seeing if it would stick. And he had said, let's try the Great Girth Podcast, which at the time we thought was the stupidest thing we ever heard. But almost 5 years later, it makes sense now. It's just so, I'm glad that he came up with it. And, I started that podcast because I wanted to continue the formula that I was doing with my buddy. However, my cousin, his expertise is politics. I was dabbling in politics, so it started out as a purely political, social topic forum, and over time we kind of learned, like, we don't want to just talk politics, because even though that's like, our bread and butter, we love talking about comic books and movies and video games, man. So we just kind of decided instead of trying to figure out what this show is, we're going to let the show tell us what it is. So we're going to just keep doing episodes. We're going to pump them out. Down the road, we'll find out what our niche is. Like, we'll figure that out. Well, I gotta tell you, man, after all these years, I still don't know what it is. I think that we're mostly just known for being, I don't want to say controversial, because it's not like we try. I think it's just that we're a rare breed of people. We know that there's a set of standards and practices. There's a guideline you gotta follow when you're doing this stuff. Because, we all know who owns the internet, who owns Instagram or Facebook. But the thing is, Austin and I are individuals that don't care about. We tend to operate within our rules. So that means getting a half reach or even distribution cut. Whatever, we'll take it. But yeah, that's pretty much how we do it, man. We just kind of we don't hold back on our opinion because, Austin has his own reasonings. Mine personally, I think it's just that if you are not honest as an individual, whether it's politically related or just a criticism or whatever, I feel that you are sacrificing who you are as a person. You're not really being you when you do that. And I understand being respectful to others. Totally get that. I'm not here to shit on anyone that wants to be respectful. There are some people that run their show that way, and I give them credit for it. They're probably doing better than I am, so you know what? More power to them. But I've always been someone that I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being told what I have to follow. I've never been that way, man. And it still shocked a lot of people because when I started my podcast, I'm still a registered Democrat. I was very much into the left-leaning game. And people say I'm right-leaning now, but I'm just more of an independent, kind of a hippie at heart. But because of that, I've learned, I'm not good at authority, and I'm not good at being told what to do. So a lot of that blends into the podcast. And I try hard to fight it back because not everyone needs a rant. We don't need to make these episodes just to shit on people or shit on topics, but it happens. And I feel that unfortunately people like it, so that's what I keep doing. People love the rants, the meltdowns. They love hearing a detailed analytic review on things. So, that's where we're going with it. And to tell you the truth, man, I really don't know what the future of the podcast is because I feel even though we've only been doing this for a couple of years, it almost feels like we're just now figuring out what it feels like to scratch the surface. I think there's a lot more about us. I mean, I really feel like we're just getting started. We've been doing it for about 5 years.
I love that. No, I think that's so cool. And politics, it's such a taboo topic in general. And it absolutely should not be whatsoever. Right. And my podcast, our podcast here, the Young Dad Podcast, if you scroll through the episodes, they're not in any set order. One week we'll talk to a mom podcaster, the next we'll talk to a single dude, the next week we're talking about religion, the next week I'm talking to the bucked up CEO, the next week I'm just talking to a college friend, the next week I'm all over the place. This podcast is ever transforming. If you go back to the very early episodes of the catalog, we were doing segments. And then it took my brother turning me on to, it's funny you mentioned Joe Rogan, turning me on to the Joe Rogan podcast. And be like, listen to this. This is the direction I think, we should go. Conversation, things like that. And I'm like, okay, I started listening. Now I listen to Joe Rogan damn near every day. I listen to E nearly every day. I listen to America on Trial almost every day. I listen to the President's Daily Brief nearly every day. I literally realized last night while I'm making dinner, because you know what I told my smart speaker to play when I was making dinner last night, or when I'm getting ready in the mornings? I told it to play America on Trial, or I told it to play the latest episode because the President's Daily Brief does a morning brief and an afternoon brief.
Yeah.
And I'm an old man. I'm officially in my old man era because the first thing I want to listen to when I get home is news.
Yep.
And politics. But those two podcasts, Mike Baker, Josh Hammer, they do so well in those daily podcasts. They explain it so well. They talk a lot of shit on either side. Whatever side is deserving of the shit talking, they talk shit. And to be able to do that is such a talent Like, for you guys to be able to, talk the appropriate shit on the side that deserves it versus the other side and then do it back.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a talent because people cannot do that. People are so caught up in their one side. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's ride or die. It's absolutely ride or die. And it's like, if you're not with me, you're against me. If you're not true to the blue, you're the worst person on earth. If you're not a hardcore MAGA, you're your little sissy baby boy, whatever kind of thing.
Right.
And it jumps in between. Like, I'm a Christian. I won't ever deny that on the
Same
podcast.
here.
I'll talk God. I'll talk faith. I'll talk all the things. Like, I was at church just a few weeks ago, or it wasn't like a church thing. It was actually like I volunteer and help with in youth ministry, and then I also help with our Awana program. So I was talking to some of the other Awana leaders, me and a couple of the other dads. We were just sitting and talking, and with the other dad, he not loves, but he brings it up a lot. And we were talking about gender issues, and we were talking about the local stuff going on here. Like, at one of the high schools, like, we have a kid that identifies as a cat, and a high school student that identifies as a cat. And we were talking about just how we ended up talking deeply about, like, because they know I'm a mental health professional, so we tied it back into that. And we talked about the mental health aspect of it, and then we talked about the parenting aspect of it, and we dove deep into that conversation. Before we knew it, we were just bouncing on topic to topic to topic, but like, we weren't arguing. Like, of course our viewpoints align because our values align, right? Because we're all sitting in the same room. We wouldn't be there if we didn't have like the same set of values, more or less. But we weren't even like arguing or fighting about it. We were just like having like a really good conversation. It's like, oh yeah, I heard about that. Did you also hear about this thing going on over here? And then did you hear about this thing going on and over here? Or did you hear about that? Like, that's pretty much the reason why I keep up on politics at this point in my life, just so I can have those informed conversations. So I can like have a conversation, because it's so important to stay informed. I've been talking about that more and more on the podcast, especially this year. I've been trying to hit it hard every episode about how important it is for you to vote in your elections, how important it is to vote in national elections, vote in your local elections. Make sure you're doing your research on like your school boards and your local officials, and making sure you're putting the right people there and all those things. So it's so important. Because if you don't know where your values are, if you just say, oh yeah, I'm a Democrat, okay, why? If I ask you
Right.
why,
Why?
tell
Yeah.
me why you're a Democrat. If you ask me why I'm a Republican or why I vote Republican, it's like, okay, well, because I feel like they have a better grip on the financial aspect of the economy. I feel like they have a better grip on the, the world geopolitical landscape. They have
Yeah.
better geopolitical relations like worldwide. When Trump was in office, pretty sure Ukraine wouldn't have happened. Pretty sure
Yeah.
the same Facebook, Instagram that you mentioned that was hacked probably wouldn't be getting hacked. The AT&T hack wouldn't have happened, kind of thing. Like, if we had the red side in office, these things probably wouldn't be happening. Israel, Hamas, it probably would have been done in a month, kind of thing.
Right.
It would have been negotiated and figured out in a month. Gaza wouldn't be completely level. It wouldn't be to the point that it is now. We wouldn't have riots. We wouldn't have college campuses with white kids and different kids of the LGBTQ plus community, holding signs to the river, to the sea, in support of Palestine, because they don't know what that means. They don't understand what that sign means. And then the irony within that is like, the LGBTQIA plus community, if they went to Palestine,
Yeah.
what's going to happen to them? They're dead on arrival.
Yes. That's the unfortunate part in all this, man. I mean, I always tell people, say what you will about Republicans, but you can't deny the fact that Republicans are really good at taking care of their communities. They're really good at taking pride in their towns and their cities and so on and so forth. Because, I do have a problem with this two-party system. I really wish we could figure something else out. But
Just vote for the
You
best
can't deny the
candidate.
Republicans are very good with money. You know, it's
Exactly. I mean, that's why the Republicans are normally the extremely wealthy.
yeah,
And you're so right. Like on like the cities, look at San Francisco.
it's sad, dude, because it used to look beautiful.
It
I was
used,
there
yeah.
10 years ago. It was gorgeous the last time I went.
I lived in the Bay. I grew up in the Bay Area.
Okay.
I used to
Yeah,
love
I
going
went
to
to,
San Francisco.
yeah, my parents would take me to Pier 49.
Yep. Yep.
And, you know, it used to look fun, but I see pictures of videos of it now. I don't know if I go, because
Mm-hmm.
it looks like here, downtown Denver, they're
Yeah.
everywhere, man.
Yeah. Like I took my senior year prom date. We went to Pier 39 for like our prom weekend, like date kind of thing. That was I don't even know how many years ago, but it's like my family and I we used to just go over to Pier 39
Yeah,
for fun on a weekend. We would go over to San Francisco for the fun stuff, going over the bridge, hanging out by the Golden Gate Park, hanging
there's a
out
lot
down
to
by the
do.
university. Like, there's so much to do, but now it's just like, don't go over there. But yet they show that they have the ability, if they really wanted to clean it up and keep it clean. Because when Xi Jinping came into town, guess what they did? They cleaned it all up. They got all the
Right.
homeless off the street. So they have the abilities. They just don't care because that's not what pays. Because if they are trying to always combat and have a solution for the houseless population, and just the fact that they have like a proper name for homeless people tells you that there's a bigger issue beyond that. Because if we go from like homeless people, it's like, okay, yeah, we understand there's homeless people. But now we have a houseless population.
Yeah.
Come on, if we're putting a first person, like a person first kind of name behind a community, there's something deeper there. I'm sorry, wake up, there's something deeper there.
It's a mental problem, man. We give them phones and apartments, but we won't give them mental help.
Nope. And the thing is, like, even that, like, the southern border crisis, like, my fiance's family's, from Mexico. They're not from this country originally. Like, her parents were born in Mexico. Her and her siblings were born here, kind of thing. And they're great people. Her family's fantastic. Like,
Right.
I don't have a problem with good people who are coming from the South or from another country who are just here trying to have a life kind of thing. What I do have a problem with are people from these other countries who are criminals who are being shipped up here, killing girls on college campuses, killing and injuring legal office, police force, first responders in big cities, pissing and shitting in our cities.
Right.
Like, that's what I have an issue with. Like, I have
He's
no
there.
issues with the people who are just really here, just trying to work, make a living, get their citizenship, trying to create a better life, a more sustainable life for themselves and their families. No problem. If you're going to come and contribute, absolutely, you're more than welcome. I'm an American through and through. I want to positively contribute to society. My kids are going to positively contribute to society. No way, shape, or form are they not going to be productive members of society, because if they're not, then I fucked up somewhere along the line as a dad. Kind of thing. I fucked up somewhere. I'm gonna own that. Like, why the fuck aren't my kids productive members of society? Where did I fuck up? Where did I go wrong? Kind of thing. So it's so important to make sure that we're informed on these issues. Because honestly, the border should have been shut down 2 years ago. The border should have been shut down. They should have never stopped construction on the border wall, because the reason behind the border wall was to keep the wrong people out and let the right people in, instead of thousands of people every single day. Like what Texas is doing, and the fact that so many states have gotten behind Texas and Abbott and sent National Guardsmen, sent materials, sent barbed wire, sent fencing, sent officers.
It's sad this gone to that.
It's like, and the states have all the rights to do it. DeSantis in Florida, they're like, DeSantis like, well, I'm immune from whatever you try to do to me, so I'm gonna do whatever I want. Kind of thing. Like, these governors know like where they stand. Like,
that's what's sad, man. The governor, they have more pride, but they also have more guts to do what the president wants. Because, man, like, I'm not a Biden fan, but I'm also not hoping for the worst, because it is our country that he's looking after, so it's scary as shit seeing what's happening. But I'm still hoping he can do his job, and of course, he hasn't. It's been
Oh no.
this border thing, man. It makes me so upset because I was just talking about this on our episode we did recently, where my grandparents were telling me that they have a problem with somebody who comes here illegally because they did it properly, and they're like, dude, if we could do it, anybody can do it. And they had to do it at a time where it wasn't modified. Like, I will say this, to become a citizen here, it is difficult, but back then in the 50s and 60s, it was much harder than people think.
99% impossible to do it back then.
Yeah, now it's more catered to you.
Now it's about 40, 50, it's about 40% impossible. Like, the odds are in your favor. If you follow it right, and you do the right steps, and you take the right things, and you do some research, or you already have some family and whatnot here, it's easier kind of thing. But the part that bothers me the most is that, like, you're killing Americans. We're not doing anything about it. Like, the fact that it has to be the governors banding together to do what our spineless Washington, D.C. officials will not do because they're worried if they do it, they're going to lose votes. You already lost the election. Your election is lost. Like, it's March, and I'm saying that. The election is lost. Like, there is no way, shape, or form that the Democrats win the 2024 election.
I don't think so either.
Even if they put Biden back on the ballot. Even if they replace Biden with Newsom and Nikki Haley. Even if they replace Biden with Michelle Obama and Nikki Haley and do a whole female ballot.
Right.
They don't have a lot of options because they don't have a lot of good politicians.
They don't, man. Unfortunately.
And what happens if Red gets elected, if Trump gets elected, or RFK Jr. gets elected, then
worried.
I'm worried, but they're gonna get rid of everybody, and they're gonna bring in like Vivek Ramaswamy's. They're gonna bring in the young, smart, intelligent, bright, high value, high character, well spoken, essentially young men. To fill these roles and drain it. They're gonna get rid of all these other politicians. Like, that's what's gonna happen, is they're gonna cut programs, they're gonna cut. Because they know it's time. Like, I guarantee Trump gets elected his first day in office, he cuts 30% of government officials. He cuts 30% of DC stuff. By the end of his second term, he's cut 50% of it. He's stripped it down, kind of like Elon did with Twitter. Elon's probably going to be part of the U.S. government by the end of Trump's second term.
Elon's in there.
Elon's on board. I'm surprised Elon hasn't bought out Truth Social yet and combined it with X. He might as well. I think that would be a great business collaboration, kind of thing. But that's a whole nother topic. But no, it's the election lost. If RFK Jr. gets in, everybody's gone. Every single person in that government's gone. He is doing a complete overhaul day one. I would say about 70% of government will be overhauled. He's going to keep the House and the Senate because he has to. And then after that, he's overhauling every other major thing. He's putting higher priorities on school boards and school and everything. He's digging into states and everything, and he's getting rid of everybody. He is making major changes. I think Trump, same time, by this time in 2028, when we're talking about the 2028 election, the geopolitical landscape, which I assume right now is going to be led for the next 4 years by either the independents, by RFK Jr., or by Trump and the Republicans. By the end of it, our government's going to look younger. It's going to be less. We're going to have better prosperity. We're going to have better school boards. We're going to be woke up from,
this woke nightmare.
We're going to wake up and, realize, like, holy crap, we've been in this woke mindset. Like, some things that from woke mind disease have been good. Tolerance, acceptance, love, all the things. Those are some good things to take out of this woke mind disease. But Trump derangement syndrome is going to be at an all-time high. Higher than it is now. And, like, it's going to look real different in 4 years from where we are right now, because I don't think there's a feasible way that the American people, even people I talk to at work, like, I live in Washington, so in Washington you have to, and it's the dumbest thing ever. In Washington State, I don't know if you know how our ballots work, but on our primary ballots, we have to fill in the bubble of the political party we align with, and then
Yes,
vote
same
for a
here.
candidate within that party. It's so stupid.
Yeah, see, that's fucked up because they know that if they can get it like that, they can choose who you vote for, which is like, because I'm from Colorado and they tried to remove Trump from the ballot. Well, they did
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah, they did. And then they had a 9-0 landslide in the
Yeah,
Supreme Court. And 5 of those judges appointed by Biden, the Biden administration. 5 of those judges are of the left, and they
yep,
all voted against it. They realized this is unconstitutional. They put the people
yes.
before party, and it was a huge step in the right direction for the American people. Being able
Well,
to
I think,
see, like, oh my God, like,
right.
even these woke Supreme Court justices who were appointed are saying no to this. Like, whoa, kind of thing. Let me wake up. And then that feeds into the conspiracy on the Super Tuesday stuff, the outages on Meta and T-Mobile, TikTok, Twitter. Everyone had an outage. Fun fact,
Yes.
Twitter's or TikTok's outage was the shortest of all the outages.
Stand
Surprise,
here, I thought that
surprise.
my Instagram got taken away from me. I had to look it up to find out that they were just having problems.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm pretty sure it was, because I don't know if you listened to it. Do you listen to PDB? Patrick David
Yes, I
Best?
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the episode where it happened to them while they were on air? Like their
No, not
service went.
yet.
Okay, their service went down. The AT&T thing. They happened while they were recording, and they were like, "What the
He,
heck is going on?" And then again, the Meta outage happened while they were recording, and then in between those two, they talked to the Blackwater CEO.
of course.
And they talked. So in between those two, they talked to the Blackwater CEO. Blackwater, if the listeners aren't familiar, which are just listening to this episode casually, they're like, "Oh, we're going to talk about being a dad." This is an important part about being a dad. We're going to get there. I'm going to tie it all in here shortly. But they talked to the Blackwater CEO, and he said that it's probably about Blackwater deals with like cybersecurity, international security, private contracting, all the things like that. And he said it's probably about 70% likely that it was a Chinese cyber attack, them just trying to see what they could do, and that they sent correspondence to the US saying, "Hey, we're doing this. Let's
Right.
see what happens." And then we did absolutely nothing. And now they're going to scale this just enough to see how they can implement this into their planned attacks of Taiwan, which are coming in the next coming within the next 60 days of the recording of this podcast.
Right.
Kind of thing. And so it's the reason I think we got so into the politics here is because politics are really fun to talk about when you're informed. Like, you can have a really fun conversation.
Yeah.
Like, are Tony and I mad at each other right now? No. Are
Just a
we
regular conversation.
exactly? Are we fighting? Are we getting a little fired up? Yeah, because the stuff we're passionate about, we care about. But we care about this stuff because it impacts our kids' future. I
Yes.
care about politics because it impacts my kids' future.
Bingo.
I care about this stuff because it's going to impact myself. It's going to impact my community. It's going to impact my family. It's going to impact the kids and the population I serve within working in mental health. It's going to impact everything I love and care about. Politics impacts nearly everything, and it's unfortunate that it has such a huge pull and impact on everything, but it does. And that's just the reality of it. If you're uninformed and you're not paying attention to how China could attack Taiwan, another big billions of dollars going there. If you're uninformed about how there's Iranian groups targeting Trump era officials right now, if that's the first time you heard that, if it's the first time that you heard that the Houthis in the Red Sea are disrupting and probably the biggest cause of your oil prices and your gas prices going up right now again, because they're taking out ships and doing drone attacks. They've shot 50 plus missiles at cargo ships. Why the price of your goods is going up even more. And they're also killing civilians now.
Yeah.
Like, if you're only hearing about this stuff now, that's way far away, you probably have no clue what's going on in your backyard. You probably have no clue that There's people getting murdered just within hours of you. You probably have no clue how rampant and terrible your school boards are. You probably have
Yeah.
no clue if you live within the Tri-Cities like I do. You have no clue that your schools are likely next year cutting their mental health professionals in school, outside of school counselors. They're cutting their mental health professionals because of the massive deficits they're in. But you know what they're not cutting? Sports. You know what they're not cutting? Anything else that really doesn't matter. But they're
Yeah.
cutting the mental health of your kids. And what happens when you take away mental health services for kids? Bullying,
Yeah, exactly.
more mental health needs, increased mental health needs, put more pressure on these kids. You have worse educators. It's a snowball, man. You look at it big picture, world landscape, and then you narrow it down to where your local community is.
Yeah.
I guarantee you look up your local school board. I've been talking about school boards a lot because I talk to a lot of educators and everything. But go and look at your local school board. Go and look at their public profiles. I guarantee 70 to 80% of your local school boards never step foot in a classroom. I guarantee that same percentage is likely just using school board as a springboard to hire for further political gain. And it's sad, man, because like those school boards are everything for our kids. Like they dictate what happens to our kids in school, how the funds are spent, how the funds are allocated, how educators react, how they're getting paid, how they're getting treated, and everything. The agendas that are being pushed, how they're being, taught and everything. And it's so important. You have to be informed. You have to educate yourself. If you're not educating yourself, I'm sorry, you're losing. You're part of your game as a parent. You're losing the long game because you have to be. You need to be informed. You need to be informed. It's so important. So yeah, that's my rant on all of it and why. Because it affects everything.
Well, that's how I feel about it too. I mean, people would be surprised to find out what's really going on in their schools because when you talk about it, you're a conspiracy theorist or a domestic terrorist or whatever, but when you talk about what's really going on in schools, whether it's politically related or just simply related to the fact that the kids are having their teachings being cut down because of funding, it says something, and people don't realize that until they actually look at it. Because, you could talk all day about how there are agendas being pushed in schools, but people don't want to hear it because it relates to politics. But it's the truth, unfortunately. There are not a lot of educators are like this, but there's a good majority of young educators that came in, they got that position of power, and they're trying to push like the trans agenda on kids and stuff like that. Whether it's a boy or girl, man, in my opinion, even if they're in middle school, they don't need to learn anything about sex ed or straight or gay alliance, nothing, man. They don't need to know any of that stuff because they're still just children. And in fact, even as an adult, you don't fully mature or know who you are until your later life. Like, guys, I think it's like between 28 and 30 is when we fully mature. So if that's the case, I just don't feel like it's right to tell an 11-year-old, even a 7-year-old, that they might need a boy just because that's how they feel. That's going to fuck up their head. They're not mentally capable of understanding what you're saying to them. So they just take it in. And then they mutilate themselves later in life. They grow up to regret it. And then we have a suicide rate that kind of spikes us. It's fucking sad, but the new world we live in, man, it's this way because people don't have conversations and don't speak up. I was watching Joe Rogan a while back and he had Dr. Phil on. I remember Dr. Phil said something about...
That episode was incredible. That was such a good episode. Dr. Phil broke it down. He got into it. He called out woke mind syndrome, the trans agenda. He called out all of it. And he called it out in such a caring, empathetic way. He called it out in such a well-spoken, well-rounded way. And he doesn't want to do it. He literally, I didn't want to do this, but my wife convinced me. She said, if not you, then who else? And
somebody else to say it.
And why not Dr. Phil, who has one of the biggest platforms in the world?
Well, he said it best, man. He was like, too many smart people are being quiet to appease others, in their feelings.
Right? And then I don't consider myself a smart person to be talking about it,
Right. But it's one of those things that he said it's a real problem
Oh,
because
huge.
people get so twisted with their reactions. They don't even want to hear the critical part of it, which is this really is messing with kids. There's kids that have no idea what this stuff is, and it's being forced on them, whether it's by an educator or a classmate, not even just school, man. Look at movies and music
Oh yeah,
about stuff.
look at movies, music, everything, and you're so right. Like my 6-year-old doesn't need to hear about gender at 6. Let her be
Yeah,
a fucking kid.
let her be, yeah,
Middle school is hard enough. Let them be fucking kids. High school, let them enjoy these last few years that they get to be
yeah,
a kid and enjoy hanging out with their friends and doing sports and activities and extracurriculars. Like, stop.
yeah,
Like, yes, inform them, educate them on unprotected sex. You could get pregnant. STIs, they can happen. Use protection. If you're not clean, get yourself tested. Go to the doctor, kind of
right.
thing. Consent. Teach them about those important things. But stop teaching kids that, oh, well, maybe you're a boy then. So then they go the rest of their life thinking they're a boy. And no, maybe they just like girls
Yeah,
and they're just gay.
exactly.
But no, instead you force them into this, gender affirming care, which is bullshit.
Yeah,
Even Dr. Phil called it out. Like, we're pushing
it's
them
a
in.
bunch of hogwash.
It's like, why are we pushing kids into this? Like, they don't deserve that. Like, let them be kids. Let them, like, figure it out. Let them go through life. Like, if they like boys, cool. If they like girls, cool. If they're a girl that likes girls, cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't
Yeah,
force them into, like, oh, well, you're a boy and you like boys, so you need to go through a whole gender change and everything. Get castrated. Oh, well, no, I was just trying to figure it out, and now I'm castrated, and I can't even have kids, and get married kind of thing. So what the fuck's the point of life? Because that's what I want. Bam, dead. Suicide rate. Why do we think the suicide rate is so high? I'm pretty sure last time I looked it up, the highest rate among teenagers and adolescents is of LGBTQ plus youth in
yeah,
America. Is the highest. That population among that age range is the highest right there. The second highest to men in their 40s to 60s, Caucasian men in their 40s to 60s. Because who's the enemy of America? Caucasian men in their 30s, 40s,
yeah.
50s, the enemy of America, kind of thing, right? It makes sense why those two are the highest. I mean, you look at the facts, people. That's what it is. Look at it for what it is. Take personal feelings out for a minute. But again, people can't even do that. Like you said, people can't even get to the point where they're not going to hyper react. They can't hear
Right.
the facts. They can't have a conversation. I mean, at this point, we've been talking for 45 minutes. We've probably triggered 18,000 people. When I post clips on this on YouTube and TikTok and Reels and stuff, I'm probably going to
Yeah,
catch all
easy.
the flack and everything. I'm probably going to get fucking canceled. I don't give a shit. Um,
Go tell you how many flowers I get from Instagram and YouTube, dude.
yeah,
All the time.
I'm like, cool, flag it. I don't care. People we need to have the conversations. Dads, you have to have these conversations with your kids.
Yes.
If they're not hearing, and again, way to wrap it back here to fatherhood. If your kids are not getting their information from their most trusted source, example, you as their
Yeah.
parent,
Yeah.
then they're going to go get it from school. If they're not getting it from school, guess where they're going to get it from? The internet. And at
Yeah.
that point, if you let it get to that point, you're fucked.
It's an open world full of bullshit. So,
you're
they're
fucked.
lost once they get it.
And there's really no coming back. Because now they're trying to fight it back. They're trying to work backwards from internet, get them to hearing it at school, to get them to hearing it back at home. And it starts at home. I have to explain this over and over and over again to parents that I work with in my program. It starts at home. Yes, they spend 8 hours a day at school. Where do they spend the other 16?
At home. Yeah.
Exactly. They spend the other 16 at home. Step up, guys. That's the message here. The reason we're talking about all this, I feel, at least for me, step up. Have these honest, these hard conversations with your kids. Inform them. If you're against it, schools, I think they still do it when they have the conversations about gender and sex and everything. I don't know. You have an older kid than I do. I don't know if they talked about it in elementary school, but do they send home waivers still to, like, get them out of these topics, or it's just
No,
kind of,
man.
because I live in a blue state too. I live in a red area in a blue state.
So, Yeah, I was gonna say I live in a red area, but it's a blue state. So
Yeah.
like the schools that we have are relatively good about it. The last school that we came from was not sending out any permission slips
So sad.
because they didn't give a shit. I used to butt heads with the teacher all the time. She was a young black woman who, all I'm gonna say, man, is the first time I met her, she had a nice little lanyard. You know, teachers have lanyards.
Yeah.
It's got a cute little apple on it. Just common shit. But then at the very bottom of it, I saw a big blacked out slur, and I was like, I got a feeling this is going to be a problem because when you display politics as a teacher, yeah, that leads to another issue. So I just knew from the beginning it was going to be an
And
issue.
that even jumps into a whole nother segment. Like from that, you could even start talking about DEI
Yeah,
and all that stuff. Like DEI is a problem.
but it's a red area. So I mean, even the principal's pretty good about it. You know, like I remember getting an email from him, and my wife had pointed out that his signature on the email said he, him, because they're required to use pronouns.
Yeah.
And we were teasing him about it, and he just rolled his eyes. He was like, the board says that we have to do it.
Okay.
So stupid.
No, I get that, but I put he, him on my email and like my signature, my work email, because my first name is Jewel, Jewell. So it very easily gets confused with he, her. And so I just put that on there for clarity so I don't get that in my later adult life here because I'm just tired of it because I get mail that says Miss or Mrs. or is Jewel on? Is she on? Is she on the call? Kind of thing. I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not. And then I show up and I'm like a male, and then they're like, oh, they're like real uncomfortable all of a sudden and real caught off guard, and it's funny, but it's like, could have just avoided this. So that's why I specifically, it was like within my first 2 weeks. I'm like, can you please put he, him on my email signature, please, just so it doesn't get.
So everyone knows.
Everyone knows, so I never have to answer any questions. Like I've been answering questions my whole life. I just don't want to do it anymore. That's the only reason I do it for mine, because I have such a not so gender neutral name.
Yeah.
That's why I go by Jay on podcast. So
yeah, they're pretty good about it. I mean, the school, like I said, the school we came from wasn't though, because they were not even passing out like flyers for the kids to inform the parents of what was going on. And I raised hell about it.
And that's wrong. That's so wrong.
Oh yeah, dude, I got so mad, and of course I was told that I was being racist and bigoted and this and that because I didn't agree, and I just lost my shit. I was like, you know what, we're just gonna pull her from the school, and they tried to combat us, man. They really tried to fight us from pulling her out of the school, but we just didn't return her to the school the next day or the next after that. We called the principal of the new school she was going to because, unlike fact, he was the vice principal at her kindergarten school she went to.
Oh, okay.
So we already knew her. And he got her in within a week. He got her processed, and he was like, we'll take care of her, you know, and he's a good dude. Like, he's gay, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter to me, dude. I don't care about that. As long as I just know his heart is in the right place.
Absolutely.
And that he's not going to try to fucking indoctrinate my kid, you know, like.
Absolutely.
Just don't talk to kids about sex or relationships. Let them be kids. You know, that's all they care about.
I mean, and kids learn that stuff anyway. They pick up on it. They're like, oh, I have a boyfriend or a girlfriend kind of thing. It's like, oh, do you know? Kind of thing. Yeah. And it's just funny. Like, they just say boyfriend, girlfriend because they're used to what they're seeing at home. Because so many of these kids are coming from homes that don't have two parents. It's like, oh, yeah, my mom has a new boyfriend, or you know, they're mimicking and they're acting out what they see at home, boyfriend, girlfriend, mom's pregnant, all these things, right? If you're just mimicking, that's what they know.
That's where I'm a blessed man, dude, because my wife and I, we've been married about 8 or 9 years, but we've been together over 10 years. Like, close to 12 years almost. And for all that time, I gotta tell you, my daughter has always questioned why we're so close. You know, she's always like, why are you and mommy so like hold each other like that, or why are you guys always, you know, like, she's a kid, so her it's gross. She was like, why do you guys kiss and this and that? And even though we know she says she doesn't like it, later in life she's gonna love that. She's gonna love that she had parents that love each other, because it is gonna show her what she can expect and what to accept from another person as she gets older.
Exactly.
Broken
Yeah.
homes, dude, really can mess up kids. Nobody wants to talk about that, but
Oh, I'll talk
they
about it all
can
day
mess up a
because
kid.
my kids are now, I've been divorced 3 years,
Yeah.
remarried now, uh, kind of thing. Like my daughters will yell at me, my now wife. Um, they'll yell at us, "No more kiss, no more
Yeah.
kissing," because I'll just shove her against the counter and I'll just start making out with her, in
Yep.
front of the kids. Like I don't care, kind of
It's
thing.
hard
Like
not to when you love that person.
exactly. Let me show you how happy Daddy is now, because you never saw this before with your mom, kind of thing. Like you never
Yeah.
saw us do this. You saw us fight. You saw us bicker. Let me show you what it's really supposed to be like. Let me show you what this happiness looks like. Let me set this example for you.
Yeah, you have to, man, because not enough people have figured that out. Even if you're like divorced and you have, you're trying to co-parent, people can't even get that shit figured out. Because the kids see when you fight. The kids see when you don't get along with stepdad or stepmom, and people need to figure out how to co-parent.
Yeah,
Because
not gonna
if
lie,
you don't,
fuck my kid's stepdad. Fuck that dude. Not gonna
well, I
lie,
understand that part too.
but I try to keep it cordial. It's hard
Yeah,
to keep it
it
cordial
is.
even with their mother. Um, but it's like fuck that dude. It's like Aaron, like if you're gonna co-parent, I'm co-parenting with the the parent of my child, with the
Which makes
biological
sense.
parent. I'm not trying to co-parent with your spouse, who's
Yeah,
probably not gonna be around forever. Not gonna lie. Like I know you, I know how this. Like I know more than you think I know, kind of thing. Like this isn't like cool. You're happy now. It's probably not gonna last, kind of thing. And you'll be
yeah,
back in the situation again here in a couple of years. But that's neither here nor there. I try not to talk too much shit about that. But no, it's if you got to figure out co-parenting. You have to figure it out. Keep it transactional because it's gonna affect your kids more than anything. Court battles, endless court back and forth, all the thing. It's gonna affect your kids. Figure it out. Take care of it behind closed doors. Take care of it through messages. Be smart though in those messages. Don't send anything that could be used against you, kind of thing. Just be
yeah.
smart. Just be smart. So, and also know your statutes. Know your statutes limitations on. I just found this little snap bracelet on my desk. It's frozen. My girl dad. Know your statutes on different things. Like if your ex tries to bring up something from years ago, be able to say like, oh, well, that was 3 years ago, according to this state law. Like that's irrelevant at this point, kind of thing. Like
Well,
know your statutes.
people don't know, man, that when you're married to someone, even when you love them, you still got to be mindful of your position. Because, yeah, that person, you could love them to death, but they could be building a case against you waiting for you to fuck up one day.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. You got to show them what they need to you. You got to articulate those words in a way that are non-violent, non-threatening. You got to do everything you can to make sure that what they hear and feel and see is in some way positive, even if you're fighting. Because what we do, my wife and I, we have to take it to the phone because we don't want the kids to see it. But again, when you're doing that, still be careful because what if you're with the person that does hate you or is, you guys are indifferent or whatever? That can fuck you, man. And the shitty thing about divorce is it messes up kids too
Mm-hmm.
when they see it being displayed in front of them. Like, I'm grateful that my dad and my mom kind of hid that from us. It sucks because as a kid I didn't understand, but I love that we didn't have to see them fight. Further, we didn't have to see them go to court. But a lot of young parents now don't understand that shit, and the kids do see it, and it does carry with them.
Right.
You got to be careful what you say to kids too.
True. Literally, it's like at least in Washington State, like in like divorce papers and whatnot. It's literally in the divorce papers that you cannot, that you are signing that you will not say anything negative about their co-parent, for their other parent, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to say in front of them. It is literally in the divorce papers. Did that follow? No. Do most people even know that? No. You can, in front of the kid at least. You can say behind closed doors, find, again, way to wrap this back to the whole fatherhood topic. Find your people that you can talk to. Like if
Yeah.
Tony and I are good friends and I'm really struggling with my co-parent and co-parenting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be like, yo, Tony, got a minute? Can we talk? My kids are asleep. I'm going to go outside to the back porch. Can I call you? Kind of thing. vent it, do it in a space where you're not in earshot, kind of thing. So many people mess up and they do it with an earshot, or
Yeah.
be like, hey, my mom's gonna babysit the kids this weekend. Are you busy? Can we go get a drink or something?
Yeah, just
Like,
something.
find your community, find your support, find what that's gonna look like, because it's so important to talk about it. Like, you can't just hold on to that. That's gonna do more damage to you. It's gonna be more damage to your kids if you're just holding on to that constantly and forever. You have to be able to release it and let it go. If you're not releasing it and letting it go, it's gonna eat at you. It's gonna destroy you. It's gonna mess you up. I know from firsthand how much that can mess you up if you're not letting it out. You have to let it
Yeah.
out. It goes back to the mental health aspect of being a dad and of fatherhood. You have to let these things out. A journal, a friend, a confidant, someone you trust, love, respect. Like, I could see me and Tony being great friends, kind of thing. Like, I would call him up and be like, "Yo, dude, I'm struggling. Let's talk. Let's chat." I feel like Tony, you would listen, and then we end up talking about politics, and then we'd be like, "Shoot, let's jump on the computer. Let's just record right now," kind of thing.
Yep.
But that's besides the point. Make sure you have that community. Make sure you have that support. Make sure you have those people you can call. If it's your dad, if it's your mom, if you're blessed to have your parents around, any way, shape, or form, if they're your people, cool. If it's a sibling, great. If it's a friend, great. If it's a coworker and you trust this coworker, you guys work together for 10 years, you guys know each other, respect each other, have that relationship, cool. You're already saving it for work. B, it's private. C, your kids aren't going to hear you. Fantastic. If you're going through the divorce process at all and you have family who's around, let them know, hey, I have court today. Can you take the kids and go do something fun? Kind of thing. And they're just going to think, oh, yeah, I'm going with Uncle Timmy today and we're going to go have fun with our cousins and shit like that, kind of thing. Don't involve them. Let them go and have fun, and then they'll see you and they'll just assume you were at work. They'll just assume you just went through your day. Like, they're not going to know. Like, let them go and have fun. Let them embrace their childhood and have fun and enjoy it while you deal with stuff, and then find your outlet. Make sure the other person knows, like, hey, when I pick them up, make sure you don't ask me anything about court, kind of thing. I'll text you how it went on my way there, kind of thing, and then I'll talk to you about it later. Make sure you're clear and you're explicit about those things. Like, if Tony was my person I was going to, I'm like, hey, Tony, can you watch my kids for a couple hours? I got court, and then I'm like, don't ask me when I'm on my way to come pick up the kids. Don't ask me how it went in front of them, but I want to talk to you later about it. Cool.
Yeah, of course.
No problem, man. Cool. Let me know. Like, cool. Like, call me later, text me later. Let me know, kind of thing. Like, be that level of support for your people. Be that level of support for your friends. Find those people in your life who are there for you at that level, because it's so important to have those. If you don't have those, your kids are going to struggle making those same kind of relationships. Like, you have to set up your kids to have those same kind of relationships.
You gotta have a support system, man, because if you don't let that stuff out and you bury it, it's gonna destroy you. That's a generational curse that I am on board with trying to fight, because I used to be a really big into, like, no, nobody's gonna care, like, man the fuck up, blah blah blah. Well, I've learned now that does kill you mentally and physically, because I'm a big believer that if your heart hurts, it can kill you. It can tear your body apart. You can kill yourself just from stress, and unfortunately coming into a downward spiral. If you don't take care of yourself mentally, you're never going to be able to be A, a parent, or B, a functioning person. Because I know it's easier said than done for a lot of people, because I'm 31, and a lot of people my age come from that generation of parents that said, man, the fuck up. Nobody cares. You would be fine. Do what you gotta do. Like,
right.
And that wasn't the way to do it. It really wasn't. It worked for a little bit, but then all that did was make us older people that don't really know how to cope with that stuff unless we get online and look for ways to do it or make friends. And the problem is there's just no focal point on that. I feel like there really is not a focus on the mental health of a parent, specifically a father, because there is, and I'm not trying to make this a debatable topic, but there is more resources for mothers, I feel, than there are fathers.
Oh, absolutely. There's no debate. There's no debate on that.
Yeah, mothers are seen as more of a priority than fathers are, because, I mean, I have my own reasons for that, but I can feel that it's fair to say that the connection between mother and child is bliss. It's something that's very, very important. However, I feel like that overshadows the fact that men need to be focused on too.
Exactly. Well, let me ask you
And
this: any of your three kids were born, did any of those medical professionals ask you how you were doing? Did any of those hospital medical professionals talk to you about your own postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, any postpartum mental illness? Did they talk to you as a father about it?
no,
Did
man,
they talk?
they didn't even really trust me.
Did they talk to your wife though about everything after
Yeah,
each of those
they
kids?
went to her.
Health, mental health, all the things, right?
Yeah, yeah, they didn't talk to me, man. They didn't even address me.
Yeah,
I was essentially treated as the boyfriend, even though I was the
yeah.
husband.
There's no debate. There's no debate then. Like there's no debate. Like
Yeah. 20 kids later, same thing each time.
exactly. Different years, different people, different situations, like
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like you've done it over the span of the last decade too, right? So you've seen what it's been like for the last decade because you have a little newborn and you have a 9-year-old. Like so you've known what it's like over the last decade and in between. And it's shitty for men. We're treated as boyfriends even though like no, that's my fucking wife. Like I married her
yeah.
kind of thing, but you're still treating me like I'm just a fucking sperm donor.
I feel like they do that because it's kind of the new, it's the societal approach.
Oh yeah.
It feels like, I mean, this is gonna get political if I'm being honest, but
Oh yeah. It
it does
does.
seem like there's an agenda to push the father out of the picture. If we can emasculate the father,
It's been that
and
way. It's
yeah,
been that way since welfare was created. If you go
yeah,
back, research welfare, where it started, the communities it started in, it's all rooted within the legal segregation of whites and people of color back post World War II, even going back to uh, post slavery, and pretty much since welfare was created, though, that's when the boom really happened. Was that welfare was pushed onto single African American mothers
yes,
because if they didn't have the father in the home, they could get paid. They could push this program. They could push the
yep,
healthcare and the agendas and everything like that. And it's just stemmed and blown out of proportion since then. So it's not really political as much as it is fact. Go and
yes,
read The Color of Law, great book. It helps explain it. Go and do some research on, the welfare system, where it was created, how it was founded. Go do some research on FHA loans, like your home loans. Those were rooted in segregation, um, which blew some people's mind when I tell them that. It's like, whoa, so you're telling me my home loan was rooted to keep, white people and colored people separate? I'm like, yeah, that was the whole reason it was created, to help keep people separate and segregated. Even post World War II, post slavery, post Martin Luther King and everything. Like you think about it, Martin Luther King was not that long ago. Like MLK Jr. was
right,
not that long ago. It was 1 to 2 generations ago, maybe. I can't remember the year,
yeah,
which I feel terrible. I can't remember the year that happened off the top of my head, but um, it's recent. It's very recent. You put that in context, like World War II was 80 years ago, 2 generations ago.
yeah.
Gonna take at least 4 to 5 generations to remedy the effects of the legal segregation post World War II. It's gonna take a long time. Like we're barely getting out of it. We still feel it. It's still prevalent. Like it's so no, you're
Well,
not wrong. It's the
yeah,
agenda.
those systems are designed to screw you, man. Because I was on those systems at one point too as a young parent. Those systems are designed to punish the father and the house as a whole. Because if you do good for yourself, they take you off you.
Mm-hmm.
But they even told us, man. I remember the day they took away food stamps from me. I was like 24, 25. They took it away and they were like, unfortunately you make $20 a year too much to qualify now. Because I had dollar raise. To me, it was the silliest thing in the world, but the case where Bill does, he's like, I'll be honest with you guys. Because she's a white woman, she is not a priority in terms of food stamps and all that. But you're a man, so you're not a priority either. However, because you are a minority, all she has to do is decide she's going to adopt you for child support. If you guys do that, she just been sentenced. And because, yeah, dude, he was like, I'll be honest with you, that's how this is kind of going. And we looked at it like, that's kind of racist. Like, that's a little fucked up. But, yeah, dude, like, they don't want to stay in it. Like, you know, that's the thing, too, because
I'm surprised that he even got that honest with you. You know, like, most people don't know, like, I'm biracial. Like, I'm African-American and I'm Caucasian. A couple other ethnicities mixed in there, but I'm mostly white and African-American and whatnot. My wife, she's Latina, kind of through and through. So, like, the racial aspect of this, and we're going over here because this is such a great conversation, but we'll hit on this and then we'll wrap up. But, you know, we get looks, like, in public.
We do too.
In 2024, brother. 2024.
People look at my wife.
People look at...
Man, I couldn't tell you. I've seen so many, like, Spanish women or Latino women that look at my wife and just roll their eyes. And I remember talking to one of them, you know, it was someone I came across at work, and we were talking about relationships, and I asked her, what the fuck is that? Why do Latino women do that? Or at least not all of them, but, you know, why do the diehard ones do it? And she was like, because of you don't look like you, the white woman, so our man. Well, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of racist. What's that?
Obviously, they didn't jump on it soon enough.
Yeah, I was like, but that's kind of racist if you ask me. And they're like, well, yeah, you can't say that. Because one of the most common unwritten rules of this world is if you're a white person, you can't experience racism, which is bullshit.
Oh, but, absolutely.
Yeah, absolute bullshit. But that's one of the most unwritten rules that you follow. So it's okay to treat white people like that, which again, that's fucked up. But yeah, I just looked at it like, that's fucking racist. That doesn't make any sense.
No, race.
You would think that they'd be happy.
Right? Like,
if there's, you know, diversity and shit.
DEI, man, DEI. That's another conversation. That's a whole freaking hour itself. Talk about that. Because then we would jump into the airlines and Harvard and everything, man. Like, there's a lot we could cover in DEI. That would be fun. I never realized how fun it was to talk politics. Because I work in mental health, so I work with a lot of women. And I work with a lot of gay women. I work with a lot of queer women, whatever they identify as.
Yeah, whatever they prefer to be called.
Whatever they prefer to be called. You know, I still say, like, I ask them, like, what are your pronouns? If they say, like, a she or a her or something, I'm like, cool, I'm going to run with that. I'm rarely going to use your they pronouns. Not to be disrespectful, it's just, like, I know they don't care enough. I know they have told me, like, she is fine. I'm like, cool, I'm going to run with that. Because I can obviously see you're a woman. I can very obviously tell what you have between your legs, kind of thing. I'm not trying to say that to be a bigot or racist or anything. Like, my girls, like, if they ever try to tell me, like, oh, I'm trans, I'm like, no, the fuck you're not. You have a vagina between your legs.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, that's something that pisses people off. I always say, like, my kid comes home and says, Daddy, I think I'm a girl or, you know, or a boy, and, you know, the whole chance thing. I'm going to look at him like, no, you're not.
You're not, no. I'm sorry. Maybe you just...
Scientifically speaking, you're not.
Maybe you just like girls. And that's okay. Yeah. Like, let's have a conversation about that. Like, maybe you just like girls. If you like girls, cool. Like, I accept you and I love you still, but, honey, you're not trans. You're not transgender. Like, you have a vagina and you have boobs. You have breasts. Kind of thing. Like, let's...
Yeah, it's clear what your body parts are.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly. But yeah, let's wrap here. We've had such a fun conversation. I love how we've been able to tie all this stuff back into fatherhood and being a dad in one way, shape, or form. Of course, I would have loved for us to get into the mental health aspect a little bit more, but we kind of did, more or less, talking about how important it is to take care of your mental health and make sure that you address it, because you can't be the best version of you if you're not addressing your own mental health. You have to address your own mental health issues. You have to address, like, you know, your depression and everything. You have to address anxiety, depression, all those mental health disorders. They're not just a thing where I can tell you, if Tony tells me, man, I'm really depressed, man the fuck up. You can't tell someone that. That's going to make it worse. It's like, dude, I'm really sorry. How can I support you? Do you need to talk about it? Do you need some space?
Right.
Do you need a distraction? Like, what can I do to support you, brother?
Yeah.
Like, do you need some help finding resources that can help you? Like,
be supportive of each other.
Exactly. How can I support you, brother? That's what we need to do for our kids too. Like, oh, honey, you're feeling depressed, man. I'm really sorry. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about that so I know how to help you? Like, what are your kind of how are you feeling depressed? Things like that. Like, let me know. Like, do you think like maybe you would benefit from talking to someone? Like, my 6-year-old's in therapy, kind of thing, and she's working through like these different feelings. I mean, because she was a child of divorce and she's been through a lot the last like few years, kind of thing, between the two homes and stuff. And so she's back and forth between that stuff. So she's in therapy now and she loves it.
Right.
And it's such a good thing because it helps her get those feelings and express herself at that level. So, but yeah, I would love to jump into it, but we'll have to do it again because there's always more to talk
Absolutely.
about. This was a great conversation. It doesn't even feel like we've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes.
But
Like it's just flown. So I just want to give a shout out to my sponsor of the podcast today, the June app. Drive positive behavior change with June. If your child is struggling with behavior, habit, or routine while at school or at home, well, June might be worth a look. This new revolutionary app combines a video game that kids love with important tasks and habits that you want them to practice daily. You can give the app a try for free with my code YNGDAD to earn 25% off and see why over 500,000 families and over 1,000 therapists are recommending June. That's JOON. And visit JOONAPP.io/youngdad, YOUNGDAD to learn more. And again, you can find that code, the direct link, all down in the description of the show notes. Or if you're on the Instagram, the Twitters, the Facebooks, wherever, the link in my bio contains that, all the deals, specials, promos, and partners of the Young Dad podcast on our link tree. And then Tony, they'll be able to find it as well in the description of the episode. But tell the people where they can find more of you, more of your podcast, of course. So,
okay. Right now our website is under maintenance. It has been for months. But if you want to find something that's related to that, go to Instagram. We're at the Great Girth Podcast. We're on YouTube, same thing, at the Great Girth Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google. We're also on Rumble too. But again, if you're looking for us, it's going to be at the Great Girth Podcast. But thanks again, man, for having me on.
We're on Rumble too. I find we get some solid views on Rumble.
Yes.
Which is surprising. I did not think I would click so well on Rumble. So.
Oh yeah, our views are way better on Rumble than they are elsewhere.
In fact, I get way more views per episode on Rumble than I do on YouTube. So.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason. It's probably because I look Caucasian and I fit the demographic better. But hey, find your audience, find your people.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, thank you so much for your time today. It's been much, much appreciated. It's been fantastic. Such a great conversation, and we're gonna have to part 2 this. So.
Absolutely. Just let me know, man. I'll be there.